y'all, it's your girl Sonia, and welcome back to She Say Sports. Today I have with me the host of the Carlos Brown Show, Carlos Brown. Hey, Carlos, how are you doing today?
How you doing? I'm doing fine as well.
That's good. I said your name like 3 times in 5 seconds. Carlos. I'm so corny. But thanks for joining me today. Tell the listeners a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, the capital city of Louisiana. I've kind of been in radio 20-plus years. I do a sports talk show, of course, the Carlos Brown Show, right on the Open Mic Broadcast Network. And, of course, we talk Southern University sports. We talk the Southwestern Athletic Conference. And we also cover black college sports. So, with that being said, it's just been a pleasure and an honor to be able to, do something you enjoy, you have fun with for multiple years.
Absolutely. I totally agree. Well, I don't have multiple years as of yet. I will have my first year next month, so I'm excited. But Carlos and I are actually podcast mates or radio mates at the Open Mic Broadcast Network. Carlos and I actually met December of last year at the Celebration Bowl, and when we both found out that we were from rival schools, the verbal banter began, especially with me at first. He probably didn't even know, but I was already doing it. However, it was, great meeting him. I was actually on your show, end of June, and it's just, we getting to know him and BJ, because BJ Jones is also one of our podcast mates with Open Mic, and learning from them has been a pleasure. I enjoy speaking to both of them. So thanks again for joining the show.
Well, again, it's a pleasure. And, that day in December, the Celebration Bowl, that everyone knows I have a special liking to Jackson State University. And I think I happened to mention Jackson State while doing the show, and you were in the room, and I could tell by the expression that you're passionate about your school as well.
Yeah, pretty much almost jumped your back. But however, I wanted to be invited again to the Celebration Bowl, so I kept my peace. But no, it's all good.
No, well, but you should be passionate. Outstanding institution, outstanding sports programs, and a lot of rich history and tradition.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, I expect Jackson State to always be competitive and look forward in the upcoming years that great competition between the two institutions.
I totally agree. Absolutely. You all are definitely our biggest rivals. So, even, over Alcorn. Alcorn is our Mississippi biggest rival, but you guys overall. So I totally agree. Ditto to all that stuff you said about Jackson State. You know me, I'm petty. But, but no, you mentioned that you've been doing the Carlos Brown Show, you said 22 years?
Yeah, 20-plus.
20-plus years, okay. Well, how did you get into sports radio, and how did you connect with Open Mic Broadcast?
Well, it's very interesting. At my full-time job at the time, my coworker, he did a sports talk show, and he was like just talking one day, and he said, I need someone to come on and talk about Southern University. And at that time, I had no experience, none whatsoever. And I just basically said, hey, I'll do it. He was like, dude, I'm serious. I'm serious, too. I'll do it. So I got a sponsor, had a 15-minute segment, and the rest was history. I enjoyed doing it. I was just hooked on radio, sports talk at that moment. And so that was actually how I got started into sports talk radio, and then it led to, other opportunities. But, make a long story short, that's how I got started in sports talk radio. I guess being at the right place at the right time.
Right. That's cool. Did you ever play sports in school or whatever, or you just enjoy, like, a fan of sports, period?
I had a limited career in sports in high school, and believe it or not, when I was coming along, we had tackle football in elementary school. And so I actually started playing that. Now, I think most programs they have, it's not related to school. Where I'm at, they call it Brett. And they play tackle football, from 7, 8, 9, 10 years old and upwards. So, but a limited career in sports.
All right, cool. And my other part B to that question was, how did you connect with Open Mic?
Well, it was interesting. My contract with my radio station locally in Baton Rouge, it was up, and I settled that contract, that account, and I was just kind of out of radio, kind of briefly, very briefly, and then I remembered Dr. Michael Prince, and he had approached me before about the opportunities. So this was a new year, a new time, and I remembered that conversation. So we kind of got in contact with each other. We were able to work out an agreement, and after that was done, it was Carlos Brown Show on the Open Mic Broadcast Network, and Saturday mornings, 10 a.m. to 12 noon, and it has been a very good relationship. And Dr. Prince is truly a very, very nice guy and very professional. So it was a match that was made quickly, and it's been very productive so far.
Yeah, I totally agree. Same with me. He's a great, he's a history book, if you will, and he teaches me quite a bit. So I'm thankful to be a part of the team, and I appreciate Charles Bishop. He actually introduced me to him maybe September, October 2018. So it's been awesome, to be a part of the team. So I'm glad I met you guys, and hopefully we'll, despite this pandemic or after, hopefully we'll all get together soon.
And
I owe you a cake.
Well, I appreciate that, and it's something that once this pandemic is over with, I believe things are going to spike, but in a good way.
Yes.
People are going to be so used to the way it was pre-pandemic, they're going to be thirsty to get back to some normalcy, and I think everything is going to be in a position where it's going to explode. It's going to be very good from football attendance to weddings to social events, everything.
Everything.
Yeah, so I can't wait, and there'll be opportunities for us to do some things in the future. I really believe that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I absolutely agree with you. Now, Carlos, like me, you love your alma mater, Southern, probably much as I love JSU. Did you grow up dreaming of the day you would be a Jaguar, or was it part of a few choices of other colleges you were deciding to go to?
Well, after high school, I kind of did a detour. I didn't go straight to Southern University sometime later. But believe it or not, you kind of look at other schools in the conference. Grambling State was a big influence, believe it or not, coming up in Baton Rouge. But then quickly you find out that, hey, you've got to support the home institution, and then the Bayou Classic, when you see the pageantry and you see the festivities going on with that, you have to be a part of that. So when it was time to choose university, home is where the heart is. And
yeah.
So the blue and gold, Southern University, just the famous alums from that school, it was an easy choice. And I was what you would call a non-traditional student. So that means I was an older student, so time was of the essence. And so once I got to Southern University, it was all business. And so I wouldn't trade my experience in the world for Southern University. I enjoyed the time there and was able to graduate with a degree in history.
That's awesome. Cool. Okay. Speaking of SU and JSU, the SWAC released its spring 2021 football schedule this week, and I have a question regarding April 17th date. That date has some of the biggest games all the same day. JSU Alcorn game, the Bayou Classic, and the Magic City Classic. Do you think they possibly did all these games on the same day in order to keep crowds to a minimum due to the pandemic?
That's an interesting question because in normal times, pre-pandemic times, pre-COVID-19, of course, it would not be any question on attendance. But now with social isolation, I like the term I like to use, and with playing in large stadiums, and you have to have the distance, I think it was able. Their thinking was to salvage some of their biggest games, their huge games. Grambling State and Southern, the Bayou Classic, as you stated, Alabama State and Alabama, A&M, Jackson State and Alcorn State. It's not going to give them the financial benefits that it would if it wasn't a pandemic going on, of course. But to be able to salvage somewhat financially your biggest game of the year and your biggest rivalry, at least the major ones, it was an opportunity to kind of keep that going. But many of the questions I've gotten already is no Southern and Jackson State at all.
I saw that. That was interesting. Yeah, that was interesting.
And I don't know. I didn't know how to answer them on that one. It was a conference decision, you know, and the committee's worked hard, I guess, and you know somebody's not going to be happy, and that's the way I look at it. And this is a year where it's not normal. Hopefully, going forward, it'll be all right, and Southern and Jackson State will be able to play on a regular basis.
Well, you know, again, that's a huge game. I know when we play you guys here in Jackson, Southern fans come to Jackson on Tuesdays. You're here all week. So it's a big game.
I think I've heard that before.
No, it's true. I mean, RVs are already on the camp. at the stadium on Tuesdays. And with that being said, you know, it's probably going to be maybe 40,000 plus in the stadium. I don't know how many thousand at the tailgate, different events. So I guess because, you know, they probably was like, you know, we have to probably just X that one out this spring season because it's another big game. So I don't know. I'm speculating. I have no clue. But when I saw that, the 17th, I'm like, what? And so, well, of course, I know I'll be at JSU Alcorn game. You'll be at the Bayou Classic. And, you know, it probably will be the best thing right now until we figure out what's going on, you know, so.
Yeah, I think, you know, to your point, this is not a normal situation. So I would think everyone would kind of be patient about it and show some proper protocol because it's going to eventually get better. I really do believe that. And so you can't make everybody happy. Someone's going to be upset, but you're looking at a 6-game conference schedule with a possible maybe non-conference game added into it. And we're talking about all of this, but we still must be mindful that if COVID-19 cases are still running rampant, then the conference has left themselves some room that, hey, we're looking at the COVID-19 spread. It's still bad. we're just going to decide not to even have a spring 2021 football schedule. And we're talking about football, but there are other sporting events that'll be going on as well. So we've got to do our part individually, mask up and all those things, and to make sure that they have an opportunity to put on football, basketball, and all the other sports in the Southwestern Athletic Conference.
Absolutely. I totally agree. With that being said, do you think we will possibly have a full football season fall 2021?
Ooh, the $1 million question. I know personally that is what I've been looking at, even spring 2021. If that schedule, if they're able to get that going and go through a whole season, then I think it makes 2021 in the fall, it'll make it, I think that it'll have a chance to be able to complete the 2021 fall season. Based on what happens in 2021 spring. So, let's see what the numbers look like if they're able to get through 2021 spring and, there's no major complications. Cases are going down. It seems like you have a control on it. Then I can see 2021 in the fall. I'm cautiously optimistic, but hopefully we'll have sports in the Southwestern Athletic Conference collegiately in 2021 in the fall.
Let's keep hoping. I totally agree. Moving on to the SEC Conference, they also released their limited schedule this week as well. They will have 10 games starting September 26th, which is usually around their fourth week of playing normal football in the fall. With COVID-19 still running rapid in our country, do you think they will be able to move forward with this schedule?
They're going to try to the last second.
Yeah.
If it's a football game or basketball game, there's 1 second left on the clock. They feel that they can still win the ball game. They're in position. Science tells us a lot.
Yeah.
Science tells us that it is tough for the SEC and other conferences, Power 5 conferences. They have so much resources. They've got a huge television contract, and they depend on those huge contracts. They're going to try to play, and they're going to wait to the last second. Now, do I think they're going to eventually get through a whole season? I say we look at the science. I think it's going to be tough. Students back on campus now. You're seeing surges at the University of North Carolina, Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And that is going to be huge. No matter how much resources you have, COVID-19 is basically undefeated, if I can use that analogy.
Yeah, so because people are not doing what they need to do to stop it. So
right. And you're looking at students coming from all geographical areas to North Carolina, to Notre Dame, to Alcorn, to Southern and Jackson State. Can they, meaning the students, can they be disciplined enough to do what they're supposed to do? And you understand, you much more than me. You're much younger. You're young. You remember how it was going away to college and having fun, and schoolwork is important, extracurricular activities. But now they've got to be very disciplined. I think the SEC will start if they can. If they don't, it'll be a last second situation. But now, will they make it through an entire season without any interruptions? I don't think so. But you can look at the cases now. Like I said, North Carolina, they're going online just that quick because of multiple cases already since they've opened school back up and in person.
And Notre Dame, yeah. you kind of answered the question, but besides the big contracts, because Big Ten and Pac-12 also had big contracts, any thoughts on why the SEC didn't follow suit when the Big Ten and the Pac-12 postponed until the spring?
Well, the SEC, they are the number one Power 5 conference, and that's the way they think on it. And the resources that they're accustomed to making, they've got to continue to have that at their disposal. So that's why they're going to try to go and play this season no matter hell or high water. But again, science will dictate that. But the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, I think they looked at the liability issues.
Right.
And you know what? On my show, I had an attorney come on and said, look, there are liability issues. God forbid someone contracts this disease and someone dies or multiple people die. Now, it'll go to court, and they'll have to prove that, it happened on campus. But it just takes once for it to happen. And that is a huge liability that I think most schools, most conferences, they don't want to take. They don't want to take that liability. And then it's very expensive to administer multiple tests across multiple student athletes across multiple programs. So it's very expensive. I think the Pac-12 and the Big Ten, they looked at the science and said, no, we don't want to assume that liability. And then also you see student athletes now, it seems like they're looking at maybe forming a union, and doing that. That's more scary for the powers that be. Unionizing by the student athletes, and we talk about amateurism, but now they're doing all this. The NCAA, the way it is now, it may not look the same in the next 4 to 5 years. We have to look at that seriously.
That's something to think about. And just to piggyback on what you mentioned earlier regarding, schools being liable because, someone dies. I mentioned on my show last week, one reason why the Big Ten and the Pac-12 were thinking about postponing until spring is because of this rare heart condition called myocarditis that is linked to the coronavirus for athletes. And if it's untreated, they could go into cardiac arrest and die. So it's a lot of stuff playing into this, and like you said, we shall see how things go with the SEC. I'm sure they pushed it back to 9/26 just to see how things will play out and see if it'll calm down a little. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, they're going to give themselves as much time and flexibility as possible. And if let's say, for example, they end up canceling or postponing the season, and I've already heard some talk, they don't believe in spring, playing spring football because it just, to them, it doesn't make any sense, and you'll end up having like freshmen and sophomores playing football, and juniors, redshirt juniors, and seniors. They'll be getting ready for, hopefully getting ready for the NFL. So I think Nick Saban said today something like it'll be spring football to the SEC will be like JV football, the junior varsity. So.
I mean, I get it. Nobody really wants to do spring football, but, we're trying to savage some things that we can't do right now. I mean, life is about change, and A lot of people don't like it, but I mean, if I can get some type of play, I'm good with that. I'm cool with that. So far, they have over 230,000 signatures. Do you think the signatures will be enough to reverse the decision that has been made regarding the Big Ten postponement?
I don't think so personally. Now, some people, it'll be wishful thinking for them. They would like to see a decision by the Big Ten Conference, changed, overturned. But once again, I believe you have to be pragmatic. You look at the information, and you see before you that a lot of people, 170,000 people have died. And I know you can break it down to, they were older, older people in nursing homes, but the numbers are starting to tell us that younger people are getting it.
That's right.
Some are spreading it and they don't have any symptoms. I think it's better to be safe than sorry. And Mr. Fields, the quarterback at Ohio State who transferred from the University of Georgia, I know he has aspirations to make it to the next level, and there's some conversation going on that, hey, the Big Ten commissioner and the powers that be, they were not as transparent as they needed to be with parents and what have you. But at the end of the day, I've got to make a decision that I feel is best, and I am the commissioner of that conference. I look at the numbers. I look at the data. It suggests that it is not safe to play football and other sporting events because they talk about it is about the safety of the student athletes because there wouldn't be any Ohio State. There wouldn't be any Alcorn State if it wasn't for students.
That's right.
So they should be considered number one priority. So to answer your question, albeit they've gotten a lot of signatures, I don't think it will. I don't think it will make the Big Ten change their decision. Just my humble opinion on that.
Right. You mentioned about the student athletes trying to form a union. What do you think about players like Justin Fields trying to force the hand of the conference to play despite the pandemic and the decision that's already been made? I mean, it's like on one hand you want to call them a leader, but on the other hand, it's just like you want to call them impatient. What are your thoughts on players like that?
Well, I understand from a competitive standpoint,
right?
They want to play. We always talk about it's about getting your degree first and your education and your athlete second. But let's just be honest.
Let's be honest.
some student athletes. It could be athlete students. Their goal is to get to the next level. And anything that can help them to get there, that's what they want to accomplish. So if you've got the information based on science, you've got all the data, and it tells you it's not safe, there's life after sports. There's life after football. There's life after basketball. And you must remember that. And so they have a right to be heard. They have a right to voice their opinion. But at the end of the day, those who hold the ultimate decision-making, it's going to be on them. And they've got to make their choice. But, yeah, student athletes, they should be heard. And if you're a leader, you want to hear what the student athletes have to say about the situation, and that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think big names like Justin Fields in college ball are thinking that if they do not have a fall season, everything that they've worked for will go down the drain. I believe it will not make a difference because the powers that be knows what is going on. And let's not forget the old saying, what is for you is for you. And nothing or no one can they can't deter that. I mean, I see this pandemic as just a challenge in my destiny and a lot of people's destiny, stuff that we were planning to do this year. 2020 is, was a year of vision, and it's truly, we've seen a lot. So it is definitely still the year of vision. However, no one thought that we would be going through this, dealing with this. But he still, as well as other players, this is just a detour towards your destiny. I think all will be well. You just have to, he's young, and he's between 20 and 22, so he's young and wants it right now, like most adults, like most people, children included. So I get it, but, this story is still developing, so we shall see how it goes.
Yeah, and, he's at a high-profile university.
Right.
He'll have an opportunity. If you're at a smaller institution, it could affect you in a different way. But at the end of the day, you get that degree, and I know it sounds maybe cliche-ish, but you get that first, and then everything else comes after that. And you're right. This is just a hurdle or some hurdles in the way. We will get past this. We will.
Absolutely. That's true. Well, Carlos, thank you so much for joining me today. Please tell the listeners how they can listen to your show and the day and time it comes on.
You can listen. And first of all, let me say this. Thanks for the opportunity to talk with you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, ma'am. You could listen to the Carlos Brown Show from 10 a.m. to 12 noon Central Standard Time on the Open Mic Broadcast Network on Saturdays, every Saturday.
Saturday morning. And you can also follow me on Facebook at She Say Sports, Instagram, She Say Sports 23. And that's my show for today. Until next time, this is Sonia with She Say Sports, and I'll see you on the radio.